Welcome back to another episode of the HabsBrunch, your Sunday rendezvous. This is your co-host, Coach Frenchy, directly for the country of Thailand. We have Mr. Marco Larrabee, directly from Ottawa, the co-host of the HabsBrunch. Welcome back, Mr. Marco.
Hey, Coach. Beautiful Sunday morning. October's finally here. October is my favorite month. Fall is my favorite season. Hockey's about to start. Baseball playoffs. I know you love baseball. Super
Love
exciting.
it. I love
And
baseball.
yeah, I know. And yeah, fall is my favorite time of year. So really excited and should be a great show. Really excited to talk about a big week in Habsland.
Definitely about this, talking about hockey. But first, we want to welcome back. I know you were a little bit sick the last couple of days, so glad your speed recovery. We give you some
Yeah.
pills inside of your brunch this morning, and now you look like
Ooh,
you're ready
yeah,
to rock and roll the show this
absolutely.
morning.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for the vitamins. Very tasty.
This week on the Browns, we have a couple of things to talk about. We're going to reviewing the first week of the main camp for the Montreal Canadiens. A couple of news around the for the Abs for sure. The signature is some injury update, and of course, we'll talk about the Ab prospect. And finally, at the end, going to review Mr. Marco. I almost said in our top Abs preview weeks number 2 of the Montreal Canadiens. Where is going to be really important this week, Mr. Marco,
Big week.
because
Yeah.
there's going to be a lot of big decisions for the staff management, like Martin St. Louis and Jeff Gordon and KentHughes. So, anything you
Oh
want
yeah.
to add?
No, let's dive right in. Lots to cover this week, Coach. So let's get into it.
All right, time to the warm up. Here we go. Yes, she's back for another week with the Abs Brunch. Miss Karen Hans, welcome back in the house this morning.
Thank you. Glad to be here, guys. Hope you had a good week.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I have a great week. Montreal play hockey, so that's a great week. When
Yep.
the hockey is back, it's fun to watch, fun to have a great time. And then I know you are busy this week because now you really 100% about riding on the hockey bars now, right?
Yeah, that's that's quite time consuming. Yeah.
And you write in French and English, if I can recall it.
Yeah, as much as I can, I try to do both languages, but I'll admit that this week I've been super busy, so some of the articles have been in English only. But I'm only
Yeah.
human,
I remember.
unfortunately.
Yeah. I remember on Twitter, Kevin, after I think it was the Toronto game, which was kind of the boring game that we all didn't enjoy as much.
Yeah.
And I remember us chatting. You're like, I think it's going to be in English only today because that just sapped the energy right out of me. That boring Toronto game.
Yeah, well, if I'm honest, not only was it boring, but it had been a really bad day, so I might have drank like 3 9% beer during the game. So it's like, yeah, there's absolutely no way that I can do the translation today. Just not going to happen. So yeah,
Here we go.
oops.
The first thing we'll talk about, usually we do the reviewing of the week on Montreal, but before that, we have a big news happening, yes, I think 24 hours ago, and it was the signature of the contract extension of Jake Allen, the veteran, 32 years old, got a 2 years contract at 3.85 AAV per year, a total of $7.7 million. So I just want to get you guys your impression or what you think about that signature between Montreal Canadiens and the agreement with Jake Allen.
Well, personally, I think it's a really shrewd move by Kent Hughes. I mean, clearly, Caden Primo's not ready. He needs some seasoning in the AHL. We've seen what Montalbo's limitations are. He's not a number one goaltender. He's a backup. Jake Allen gets what it's almost $1 million raise, really, but it makes sense because initially he was signed to be Carey Price's backup, but we all know how that turned out, and now he's your main guy. And to be honest, Jake Allen's not a number one on a contending team, but rebuilding team is a good sentence. It's a good mentor for the kids. And I really liked Martin Saint Louis' quote when he said, "It's good to have someone who's ready to plant the trees, even though they're never gonna enjoy the shade." So he's part of the rebuild. He knows he won't be around when they're successful, but he's glad that he'll be able to say when they're good, "Well, I helped build that." So he's got the right attitude, and that's perfect. So yeah, I thought great signing.
Marco?
I think Kevin nailed it. Like I was going to bring up that quote as well too. His press conference was really, really, I think confirms and crystallizes why they decided to give him that deal. It's rare to see someone who is so self-aware of where he is in his career and kind of the impact that he has. So yeah, just I think it makes a lot of sense. I don't think anybody is surprised. It was kind of rumored for the last couple weeks, but I think we're all relieved that it came in under 4 million, and I think we have a little bit of a portal into maybe Jake Allen, the hockey manager, one day. Like maybe to me, like just with how well he understands the building of a hockey team and everything else, you can just really kind of see how of a professional he is and the kind of asset that he'll be for the team. So great move. I think it's going to be a while until we find that number one guy, but he's a nice hole plugger for now, for sure.
Both of you are absolutely right. I think the word leadership he can bring inside the locker room and on the ice. You can see on the bench when he was removed during the middle of the game in Montreal, where he talked with a defenseman. He tried to explain what's going on the ice, so you can see that kind of leadership he has. And then I think he's a great asset for the Montreal Canadiens. But let's move on now for what happenings during the week for the Montreal Canadiens. Honestly, it was the first week for the Montreal at the main camp. And we have a couple of things. I'm going to show to you a little bit the record of Montreal. 0-3-1. That's happening for the Montreal after 4 exhibition game. We know they're not focusing on the outcome, but honestly, this is a 4 game. They lost again in New Jersey. They was 2-1. Again, the Toronto Maple Leafs, like Marcus said, it was boring. 3-0. The Winnipeg Jets, a little bit more entertaining, but not good enough to find a way to win. But last by the score 4-3. And then yesterday, final score 5-4 on overtime. About again the Ottawa Senators. So what we try to do, guys, is tell us a bit more what is your impression overall for the Montreal Canadiens. And let's start with Karen.
Okay. Well, basically, I'm liking what I'm seeing. I think we're in for some exciting hockey again this year, aside from that Toronto thing. But I think it's clear that Martin Saint Louis is about the offense more than anything else. But something I've noticed, they're not shooting enough. That was true big time against Winnipeg, and it was against last night. And Saint Louis himself said it that they need to stop looking for the perfect play, and that is true. But I'm not sorry about their actual record, because who wants to win this year? It's about developing. So winning doesn't really matter. So all in all, I think the week is going well. I'm happy that Owen Beck is still impressing. I'm happy that Mishar is still doing good things as well. And the future is bright. And for now, I think, there's not much else to say about that week, really, since we don't mind the results, really. So yeah.
Marco?
Yeah, Kevin, bang on. Like, overall, I think, what's interesting here is that this training camp is not just a training camp for the players, but also for the fan base, because I think we're all gonna maybe being trained to learn to live with a little bit of pain. To me, the Winnipeg game, I think, is the ideal game that we'll see this year, which was an entertaining game with some good plays. Caulfield scores a nice goal, some nice performances. Oh, and then we lose at the end. I think hopefully that's kind of what we have to look forward to this year. If that's the case, then I think most people will be happy. You'll still have some people that aren't buying into the rebuild, and then you have people who wanted the rebuild but then still get mad that they lose. So there's some people that you can never please. But overall, this week, like Kevin said, I think we saw some interesting things. We got to evaluate some players. We saw some people meet the challenge, some people not meet the challenge, and we have just recently, if you look at, say, and we'll talk about this later, but players that we didn't think were meeting the challenge, but then now are playing a bit better. So I don't think this story is over yet. Like, there's still some great stories to play out, but we saw a great first chapter of this training camp, and still more to come, which is awesome.
Yeah.
Marco, I think you're bang on about the fans enjoying it. I was at the game against Winnipeg, and the building was absolutely rocking. People,
Yeah.
diehard fans are buying it. They're buying into the rebuild, and they're enjoying it, and that's fun. I don't think there's a lot of cities in the NHL that you can go and the building is going to be rocking for a preseason game, but it really was. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
great
awesome.
point.
That's really cool.
Great point about this, Kevin. And then before we move on a little bit other things, but you talk about a really big subject right there. Do you believe the real fans, because you have like the 10% fans, do you believe they're going to be patient enough after they lose 6, 7, 8, 9 game during the season, or the team don't go well? Do you expect like no much negativity around the team, or you feel like sometime somewhere the fans will not be enough patient to follow the plan of Hughes and Gordon?
I think they'll buy in because the Athletic did actually a survey. I think it was maybe a month or two ago, and people, they asked the fans, how long are you willing to wait to have a competitive team? And most of the fandom said, I'm ready to wait like 3 years of growing pain if that's what it takes. And it makes sense. People in Montreal, they know their hockey. They're ready for this. They're embracing it. As long as they're entertained, they're going to buy it. They wouldn't take a rebuild of 3 years for a team that plays Claude Julien style hockey. They wouldn't buy that. They wouldn't buy 3 years of smothering defense, but they will buy 3 years of entertainment. So yeah.
Marco, any comments about this?
Yeah, like like I said, you can't really please everyone. Some people will respond, "Oh yeah, I'll wait 5 years for a rebuild," and then the next tweet they're criticizing a mistake that a rookie makes, right? So you know, people that know their hockey will get it. There's going to be some people that again just kind of like to have their voice heard, give their opinion. So I think Habs Twitter, if you're watching, then I think we're all going to have fun. Let's try to be positive, and we can still be critical, we can still analyze, but I think overall, the sophisticated Habs fan will kind of buy in, and especially when they see kind of how things are being managed, and it's hard not to, right? Like it's pretty impressive so far.
Sweet. Let's move on a little bit about reviewing again, but we're going to create this kind of subject, the player of the week. And honestly, it's a little bit hard because it's exhibition game and someone play one game, 2 game, and I understand this. But maybe not the player of the week, but possible like who you impressed the most during the week, everything like so. This will be different, like usually during the season, regular season. But this week, any particular player who you was, oh, I really like him, or maybe you did not know about him, and then say, "Oh, I really like this kid now." And maybe Karen can tell us more.
Well, I'm actually not gonna go with a kid on that one. I'm gonna go with Brendan Gallagher because I feel like we're getting vintage Gallagher back, and this is really good. He looks in shape, he's healthy, he's hungry, and you saw him. He only played one game this week against Winnipeg, but he was in their face. He was a real menace around the net, and he scored his type of goal. Basically just diving for the puck, batting it out of midair, and scoring. And the building erupted when that happened. And I think people are glad to have Gallagher back. So for me, that's my player of the week. But you shouldn't be surprised since I mean, you know, I do like him.
Are you wearing your game worn Gallagher gloves as you say that? Like no
No,
bias.
I never
Yeah, okay.
wear my
Nice.
game worn items. They are collectible.
Okay.
I don't wear
Oh, okay, okay.
them.
Sorry. I'm not a collector. I don't get that, but well, Kevin, I think you're right. Thank you for not choosing my player because then I was going to have to scramble and try to figure out a different player. But Caden Gooley for me, definitely player of the week, cementing his place in the roster. Just a really dominant game, I felt, with the first game that he played. Still decent last night, but his first game just dominant. Obviously, the beautiful goal, lots of poise, Dak breaking inside and then just him having the poise of kind of coming into the slot, beautiful shot. But then just his physicality, closing on guys hard during that game. So to me, Caden Gooley, huge step for him. I think we were all, pretty confident that he was ready, but I think everybody now, knows that he's ready, and it should be pretty much a lock. And we'll talk about who's the lock. Maybe I'm giving that away a bit, but Caden Gooley for me, player of the week.
Yeah, great selection, both of you, about both players. I have to go with Cole Caulfield. Cole Caulfield, since when he left like last season, it looked like the season
Yeah.
never finished for him. He scored 2 goals in 2 games, and he could score 3 or 4. Honestly, it's really positive to see Cole this way, and I was expect like possibly he will score a lot of goals, like over 30 for upcoming seasons. He looked like in great in shape, and he looked like a bit more stronger. Again, I don't say the battle 50-50, but I feel like he's not like go move around like he was last season. I could be wrong. I like the fact he play
Uh,
on the opposite side, honestly, on the left wing. I think he gave him a better way. He did a lot for Wisconsin Badger when he played in a team national team USA, and I like the way he is at that position versus the right winger. I think he did very well overall. We have other player we can talk about. This will be a little bit longer, but I think overall for me, Cole Caulfield. I know we're not being negative, but one player maybe you expect a little bit more. Who it would be?
Marco, we can go first on that one.
all right. So one player I'd expect more, like let's focus in on the veterans, I guess, because we don't really have expectations for the rookies. I guess you'd have to say Jonathan Drouin, even though he was injured, um, I didn't really see very much from him the last game. It was a great opportunity for him. So to me, Drouin, like, honorable mention to Hoffman in that last game, just not really a strong performance, considering they should know that they're battling for a spot, in my opinion. So to me, that would probably be the one of those two guys was the most disappointing. Maybe it's recency bias because it was just a game from last night, but that would be my pick.
Jared?
Hmm. I think I would go with Yoel Invisible Man Armia. Um,
Ah, that's
I'm
mine.
sorry, but I need to see more from him. I mean, yesterday in the game, you've seen, Evans and Pitlick really clicking, and then Armia's just around there doing whatever. And
Eh,
for the money he
I don't know
makes,
about that.
that's good enough.
I think Armia gets it. Like, listen, like I think it's the money that makes it an issue. But again, like even Martin Saint Louis was talking about how he kind of gets a bad rap. Did you see that he actually was the guy who won all the skating exercises in the camp? Like he won all the skating exercises
Well, you
going
know what?
into camp, right?
Exercising is all good, but that's not what wins games. That's not what is
No, I get
inspiring
it. I
kids
get it.
to play better.
I
That's
get it.
not what shows kids to be better professionals, to always be in the game and to always make an impact. So, yeah, win all the training things you want, but bring it for the games. Sorry.
No, uh, you're absolutely right about this. For me, it's like the urgency. He doesn't. I feel like he's on his own bubble. He's it's not big deal. I'm going to play next week, and I feel like someone need to push him like harder or whatever. He don't feel like life is good. He feel like life is good. I don't know, but really disappointed to see him. I thought back from the World Championship, new dad, new kid, family, and I thought he would get some more maturity. He's going to be on fire at the first week of the camp, and I didn't see a lot like at the way where it was like, wow, this was really bad for me. He was the only one player. Like I don't want to go other players. Karen, you nailed it for me, and I think you're absolutely right. So I know what experience now. 1 week later, 74 players cut many of them 23, I believe, 2 days ago. Do you think or do you feel it was a great experience or you feel it was not a great experience overall? I give you about 1 minute each, Karen.
I think it was a great experience. I mean, you start the preseason, you've got 8 preseason games. That's way too many. You don't want your regulars to get tired. You don't want them to get injured. So, yeah, give experience to young guys. See what you've got in your system and, evaluate them. Give them a chance to see what the pros are like. Don't let them watch Yoel Armia in games, but, And, yeah, I think it was a good experience. But I'm looking forward to significant cuts and, getting nearer to an NHL roster. I am, but yeah, it was a good experience for me.
Marco?
Yeah, like again, like it is what it is. Like we have a lot of prospects, like volume of prospects, and for us, really kind of dedicated fans and people that are hockey junkies, then we for us it's like Christmas, right? Like we're looking at all these other players. The average fan may not be as plugged in and kind of watching all those young players, but for us, it's a great opportunity to see those players a bit closer. Good opportunity, for the management team. And one thing that people don't talk about a lot too, it's kind of a reward for the scouts and amateur scouts or even pro scouts that are kind of bringing those people in. So it's a tricky time for Martin Saint Louis as a coach, right? Like you have to kind of manage all the stakeholders in the organization because they want to have their guys there. You're trying to focus on your team. It's tricky. So it's a tricky time. I'm sure St. Louis is just, really excited here to kind of get into the core of the camp. But it's a almost a necessary part of it that you need to do. I thought the initial number was a bit high, 74, maybe a bit high. Most teams are around 60. But based on the volume of prospects we have, I guess it's just natural that we have that many.
Awesome. This week we have a new subject. With the first time we're going to talk about this, and honestly, it's called "What is Next?" You're both on the hot seat of the HabsBrunch. What is next? It's coming for Karen and Marco, and you're going to give us a little bit what you think about French players. The first one I want to talk about is Emil Heineman. Tell me a little bit more what you think what's happening to Emil Heineman, Karen, for the next couple of days with him from the Montreal Canadiens.
Well, I think from the Montreal standpoint, he's got a great shot. I'd like to see him stay this side of the pond and spend a year in Laval, but I don't think that's gonna be possible because a Swedish team I think has his rights, and if he doesn't make the roster, he's going back to Sweden. I think that's what's gonna happen. Unfortunately, I would have liked it if he stayed here and just played the North American game all year, but not sure that's gonna happen. Unfortunately.
Marco?
What's next? Unless there's a trade and we trade, one of those forwards that are kind of clogging up that room. What's next is a phone call back home to start booking his travel plans and where he's going to be living. Maybe a call to his agent to make sure, is this the right move? Like, shouldn't I be in North America this year? But I think that's what's next. And I think we'd all like to see him stay. Like, he definitely is not just a great shot, but he plays heavy on the puck. He can move, he can skate, he has the great hockey sense as well. So to me, revelation of the camp. Like we all heard good things about him after the Toffoli trade, but really, really good confirmation on the move that got us a first round pick. And it was so basically it turns out Mashar and Heineman for Toffoli and a fifth, right?
Yes.
So I think we're all happy with that result.
Sweet. The next one we'll talk about, you just mentioned his name, is Philippe Mézard. What will be his next destination for him when he's going to be cut from the Montreal Canadiens this week?
I'm not going to change my mind on this one. He did impress me, but I want him to go to the OHL so that he can be the guy. He can dominate, can be an important role rather than be down the depth chart in Laval, stuck between older guys and not have enough ice time. He needs to mature physically, and I think being in the OHL will give him a chance to do that rather than be in the AHL. And you've got a lot of career AHLer out there who are just looking to smoke the new guy, just hit them hard and stuff. So yeah, I think OHL this year, and then AHL or NHL we'll see next year.
Marco?
Yeah, I think if you read the tea leaves, I think even Nick Suzuki mentioned that it would be great for him to go down to the OHL and dominate. So it seems like it's pretty clear to everyone involved that it's kind of telegraphing to everyone that that's what's going to happen. I think, yeah, great opportunity for him to go down. You look at Suzuki went down to the OHL, dominated for that extra year. Gouli went down last year and played really well, went all the way, won a championship. So yeah, I think it's the right move. Let him go down there. and play a lot of minutes. And I think we're going to see, hopefully he puts on a little bit more weight. I think really that's the only thing that he needs to do is get a bit stronger. And then we're going to see something pretty special next camp.
When you will look about the center at the American Hockey League Laval Rocket, he will be the top center behind. They don't have a lot of players like him with Laval Rocket. It will be center number 2, number 3 there with Laval Rocket. So for me, I would say yes, it's the right things to go OHL, but it showed to me right now he's not behind with the game he plays so far. I'm not sure it would be better for him to play his 15, 16 minutes in American Hockey League, because if you think about this, Jan Mizako is over there. It's going to be a Mitchell Stevens over there. As the center line is not strong like the winger, like Elonen, Pinard, blah, blah, blah. So I think he will not play on the 4 line in American Hockey League. I think he would be like top. Now, physically, that's the biggest problem. Like Kevin said, very small, honestly, and play 82 game. Where the schedule traveling is a little bit harder, but the boss and OHL will be not changed. Hopefully, if you play in OHL, he'll be traded at some point to have a chance to play in Memorial Cup. Of course, he's going to be at the World Junior Championship anyway. But I feel like
Another thing to think of though is if they do plan on sending Slafkovski back to Laval, that it shouldn't, but it might change their perspective a little bit, and if they can play together too, right? I wonder if that would be a factor. So if they're already planning, they've already kind of decided that Slafkovski is going to go down, maybe that's changes things a little bit. I don't know.
here we go, talking
Batman
about
Robin.
Slavkovski. Why not to add Slavkovski in the conversation? And Miss Karen, I can wait to hear your answer. This might be when I prepared the show. I said, this is the most important question I'm going to ask to Karen today.
Well, I've said on our first episode that I thought it would be in Montreal to fill up those seats. They needed the hype and all that. But, after the first half of main training camp, and we've seen Hughes on the Ferro and Reggers podcast actually say that, yeah, he's been underwhelming the 2 games he's played in the NHL, the preseason games so far, but he was great at the prospect tournament and with guys his own age. So I really wouldn't be surprised to see him go down to Laval. And the most important things to remember is that the Canadiens, they keep saying that they picked the best player, the guy who's going to be the best player in his career, not the best 18-year-old. But, it's still hard to see the first overall guy go down to the AHL. I can't remember where I read that, but apparently the last first overall pick that was a forward that didn't start straight in the NHL was Matt Sundin.
Yep.
By the Nordic quite some time ago. So yeah, but if that's what it takes, if that's what the best decision is for him, then great. And I think we've seen the new management doesn't care if they make the popular decision; they care if they make the right decision.
Great
So they're the
comments.
pros. Yeah, I think Laval probably then.
You're absolutely right about Matt Sudden, by the way. It was 1993, if I can recall it. And they have 2 goalies, 2 defensemen, and 2000 first of all pick did not start in NHL. No forward. Every forward was drafted. They play in NHL. Marco.
One point to add to that though. So there was somebody that talked to a whole bunch of different executives around the league around that very question about, this would be the first player not to start. But to be honest, there's probably a lot of teams that would have started their first round pick in the AHL if they could have. But most of the first round picks happen to be from the Canadian Hockey League, and you're not able to do that. So they're almost forced to play them in the NHL rather because they were too strong for junior, right? So maybe it's a bit of a misleading concept because luckily Montreal has the flexibility to send him to the AHL. And there's probably other teams in the last 10 years that if they had that option, they probably would have started that player in the AHL. So I get that the optics on it are not amazing from that perspective if it ends up happening. But I think it's an unfair premise because other teams didn't have that option. All that being said, what's next for Slavkovski? He's going to play another preseason game. That's all I'm willing to say at this point. I was originally on the record
Me
saying
too.
that's a cop out. So, well, technically, I'm answering the question. The question is, what's next? Next, he is going to play another preseason game. And my original thought was that he was going to be in Montreal. I'm not prepared to change that response yet, but we'll see. You
I
like
was
that workaround, Kevin?
Yeah,
That's a good
right.
loophole.
We'll
That's a
take
good
I
it.
would
loophole.
take him more two more game for exhibition game. I don't think he's going to get one. I think he's going to play Monday or Tuesday, then play one more game on the road next week, and before they send him back in Laval, I think he have more location. And then, as back what he said, Marco, I would not be surprised to send Slavkoski and Mezar together in Laval. That's the reason I put Mezar at Laval, but I could be completely wrong here. And until they don't make any trade on any open space or spot for the forward, I don't think so. Slavkovski is going to be part of the Montreal Canadiens for the upcoming season. That's not said he will not return with Montreal. We maybe not stay all the way to Laval Rocket. I just said I don't feel he's going to be a part of the roster, but we have to wait one more week before honestly what the play card is going to happening about Slavkovski. And finally, is the biggest question about this. And I said defense spot who is locked. And maybe you can give us what you think, what is going to happen. We know Jordan Manson is hurt. Possibly he's not going to be ready. Honestly, he won't be ready. It's open up an extra spot, I believe. What it would be, you thinking right now, who is going to be a part of Montreal Canadiens at the beginning of the season, 2022, 2023, October 12th, can the Toronto Maple Leaf?
Well, I think we all agree that Goulet is going to be there. I think he's done enough to lock his spot for sure. And I think Jordan Harris as well. Then it's between Barron and Jakai for the last spot. I'm not sure between the two because I wasn't impressed with Barron so far, but yesterday he looked like he belonged. He looked like he'd finally gotten over the jitters and he was there to play and to do his thing, and it was impressive to see him last night. So yeah, I'm kind of torn between him and Jakai yet. So I'd say that Goulet and Aris are locks for me right now, and the final spot is between Barron and Jakai.
Yeah, assuming that Edmonston isn't there, then you really need three of those rookies to play, right? So I think Gouli for sure is a lock. I'm right with you, Kevin. Over the last couple weeks, I've been critical of Barron in how he's looked so far, but I agree 100%. Definitely a stronger showing from him last game, which is really encouraging. Because I don't know what it is with you guys. Like I know that you can have two left-handed guys or left-handed shots on the same pairing, but it drives me nuts. Maybe it's like I have OCD or something, but I just like the symmetry of having a right and a left. So even though I've been critical of Barron, I was hoping that he would be able to make it here because it would be nice to have that right hand shot. So really encouraging. But again, it's one game. Let's see how he if he's able to keep it up. But yeah, so really the only lock other than the veterans would I think is Gouli and Harris. So it's really that last spot, like Kevin said, between Jacky and Barron.
You're absolutely right.
Schooneman a lock for number 7. Schooneman is a lock for number 7.
You're absolutely right about this. Will be interesting. This is what the reason why we have the following week will be very interesting for open spot for what we have, and who knows, maybe they will make some change. I'm talking about trade at some point will be something we have to follow up. Let's move on now, guys. Busy weeks in the Montreal Canadiens this week on the order department. You can see with Chantal Mekabe, she wanted people, the staff management talk more with the press conference, with the reporter, everything like that. We have a big meeting, press conference at some points on the way. I think it was Thursday before the game. Again, we pay Jet there. You have the AB team development show up in front of the press conference. So when I'm talking about them, I'm just talking just quickly about this. Rob Ramage, Francis Bouillon, Adam Nicolas, Scott Pellerin, Nick Carrière, Marie Poulain, Philippe Poulain. They meet the press and they talk about what's the plan and what they do, everything like this. So maybe both of you can talk about this and let us know about what you think about that press conference.
I thought it was really interesting, to be honest. I didn't even watch it because I was at the game on Thursday night, so I didn't have time to watch it, but I watched it before the game yesterday and I finished it this morning. And I thought it was really, how should I say, refreshing to hear that side of things. That's not something that we had access to under previous management, and it wasn't previous management's way of thinking either to use that kind of development. And I thought Adam Nicholas came out really well in that press conference, speaking about, cognitive balance and the way to get guys into the game and to make them understand and how you need to train in real game situation. Because and actually I thought it was funny in the press conference that he told Arpan Basu that he did a great tweet, because on the day Basu actually tweeted that the guys were rehearsing face off, practicing face off, but whereas before they would just drop puck after puck after puck after puck and just practice practice practice, now they take one, they skate away a little bit, and they come back to it later. Because, in game, you're not going to take 6 face-offs in a row, because that wouldn't happen. You'd get a penalty if you move too early anyway, and there you go. So, yeah, it's important to put guys in the real situation. And that's actually kind of explained one of Martin Saint Louis' comments earlier from the week, saying that from now on, the Canadiens are going to practice at the Bell Center on game day. That's also about the environment, getting used to the ring, getting used to the bumps in the ice, getting used to all of that. And I thought it was really interesting to hear all of those things.
Yeah, I love the whole thing. First of all, I think the press conference probably should have been sponsored by Red Bull, because Adam Nichols is just so like full of energy, like just popping out at you at the screen. So you can see where why he's effective, right? Just so much energy and pops out at you. But what was interesting about the press conference too was, he did his whole kind of concept, like he spoke for a while, and then there was this kind of silence from the press and the media. They're just kind of almost couldn't believe what they were hearing, and some of them were like, some of the questions were like, "Can you explain to us to that?" Like we were like a 7-year-old, because we didn't really totally understand that. Like if she's talking about neuropathways, and I loved it. I get it. To me, the part that makes the most sense and the best descriptive ways is coupling things. I know this from my work at work. Like when we're training new employees, we often, if we're training them on certain concepts, then we want them to use our work tools as they're trying to use the concepts, so that they can couple the concepts that we're teaching with the actual tools that they're using, whether it's software, the hardware that they're using, right? So to me, it makes 100% sense to give them the reps in the environment, couple the memory and kind of the neurological reactions that they're getting to the physical actions. Total game changer, very exciting stuff. Not for every kind of average fan that's going to sit there and enjoy that press conference, but for us hockey nerds, that's du bonbon, comme on dit en français là. C'est du bonbon.
Sweet. I'll agree with you guys. It was very interesting to hear that. And it's all about replicate what happening in the morning to go to the evening. And that's what he tried to explain. And what it was for me was like he wanted to understand what the brain works to get and how you can develop not the hockey sense, of course, but more like the brain, how the player can learning quicker, faster, better. And that's great. And then if you follow hockey or you coach hockey, that's like 20 years ago, talk about small area. Why the reason they play not on the 200, but on 40 feet, 20 by 20, and you put 4 or 5 players there. That's the reason, because it's happening a lot during the game, and that's the reason to just call a small area. I don't want to go deep on the youth travel team, but the players, but that's happening about this. That's what Martin said. We use a lot of drill like this for the Montreal Canadiens. The next thing I want to talk about, it was Jeff Gordon. It was one of the press conference, like podcast this week. Where of course everybody will watch everyone, but he talked about the abs, the breakdown of what abs need and the future. What 3 areas he was talking about. So I don't know if you know what he was talking about, Marco or Karen. And if not, I will let you know. But if not, if you all know about what he said, tell me what you think about what he talked about.
Well, I'll wait until you tell me what he said because I haven't listened to
Oh,
that podcast, I'm afraid.
okay.
So, yeah.
I can, yeah, I can cover that one. So, yeah, this was a great interview with Jeff Gordon. So I think what was a couple things that stood out to me from that interview. So yeah, the things that he pointed out that he thinks are the biggest kind of holes or gaps that Montreal needs to fill as far as the rebuild goes. So one of them was a top pairing offensive defenseman. Was one of the things that he pointed out that most successful teams have as part of a rebuild. So that's something that they're going to need to address. The second one was goaltending. So that was good to hear that they recognize that that's something that's going to be crucial to this build. So they've in the short term addressed the goaltending with Jake Allen, but I think we're all hopeful that they'll find a young goaltender that better aligns with their competitive window. So potentially, I don't know if we want to draft someone necessarily and wait for them for 5 years. Maybe scoop a nice 21, 22-year-old young goalie that can kind of jump in and play in our window. That would be ideal. And then lastly, continue to address size and physicality. He noted that it was very difficult, obviously, to find physical players that can also play in your top six, like a Matthew Tkachuk kind of player. Like those are pretty rare. Slavkovski is a big guy, but he's not that kind of player. So if they could address that, add a little bit more truculence, as Brian Burke would say, in their top six, that's something that they would address. But the big one for me, the most interesting thing from the interview was he was talking to or about before Martin St. Louis and Kent Hughes were actually hired. They were, having kind of like group text conversations about different things. And there was a story about how Pitlick got actually claimed off waivers. So both Martin St. Louis and Kent Hughes, again, this is before they were hired, right? So they're just talking casually. Both sent Gordon a text saying, "You need to pick up Rem Pitlick. I see something in that guy." So when everybody's thinking about who's going to make this initial roster, that gives you a sense of how highly Martin St. Louis and Hughes think of Rem Pitlick. They're the ones that actually influenced Gordon to go get him, because at that time, remember, he was by himself, right? Like he had let go uh, everybody basically, so he was kind of the interim GM at that time, right? So to me, that's very interesting. I love that there's these interviews because you get to see kind of how like I didn't think he wanted to kind of give that away necessarily, that Rem Pitlick is a lock, but that's why it's fun to watch these interviews, because you can kind of find little clues as to how highly management thinks of certain players, right? So I thought that was very interesting.
Karen, anything you want to add about this or?
Well, like Marco said, I'm quite glad that they're aware that they need to address the goaltending situation. I think, last year Kent Hughes said, "No one's proven to me that they can be a consistent number one in the NHL." The hope was that Primo would be, but we don't know if he'll get there, and that's great that they're aware of that. I mean, for so many years, the Montreal Canadiens just didn't have to think about goaltending. When your franchise cornerstone is Carey Price, you're like, well, that's sorted. But the Carey Price era is over, so they need to find a
Yeah.
new goaltender that can carry the load. Hopefully, not as big a load as Carey Price had to carry, because the team will actually be able to score goals now. So
And not as expensive,
yeah,
hopefully. Yeah.
yeah. Very good point. And so, yeah, I think it makes perfect sense. And what else could you expect from a guy like Gorton? I mean, he's got, good hockey pedigree. He knows what he's talking about. And clearly both him and Hughes have got this plan that they've all mapped out already. And I'm just grateful that they let us see bits of it. Before the previous management, everything was smokescreen. There was almost like a nomerta, a rule of silence. You couldn't know too much, but these guys, they're more
Wow.
open, and it's fun. Yeah.
Kevin, you're too much Latin on a Sunday morning. It's a lot of
Sorry.
Latin for Sunday. No, it's good. Last thing too is just for Bergevin haters, there was a nice little comment from Gordon there too about, you have to acknowledge that Bergevin, like, did some really great things in that time too. Like they talked about getting Suzuki and some of the pieces that they have. So it was a nice, classy gesture by Gordon to make sure that he had a nice little mention for Bergevin. And I think he won't admit publicly, like, he's not loving the Hoffman Armia and potentially Gallagher contracts that Bergevin let with him. But I think overall it was nice that it was a pretty classy move to make
Yeah,
a
and he
nice
did
word.
sign Toffoli as well, which we've covered before. That brought back some good players. So yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Let's move on. We have about 10 to 1 more minute to go. And then one more story about what you just talked about. Ken Hughes said, when I called Jeff Gordon, said, we should hire Martin St. Louis. He said, look, I just hired you. You want to hire a Bantam coach as the Montreal Canadiens. What the heck is going? What happening with you? And he was laughing about this because, it was funny to mention how we want to hire a Bantam coach and Boston, but it was funny from Jeff Gordon, I'm sorry. Now we have the time to move up to the preview of the week, like we do every week. We're going to start this, honestly. And this is really important week for the Montreal Canadiens. This is really where happening a lot of big decision, everything. And then before we talk about the preview, let's talking about the 4 games they have for upcoming week. They still have 4 more games for the Montreal Canadiens. They're going to play Monday again Toronto at home. The following day, again, the Ottawa Senator. Tuesday, then they're going to be in Ottawa or other rink. Thursday, the 6th and the October 8th. It will be the last game of the exhibition game. Honestly, that's keep them a total of 8 games, and I feel like it's a lot. And the first thing I want to talk about, guys, is what is the next cut? What do you expect Montreal? They are around 44, 45 is this area. What is how many players going to get released? We know nobody talk about, but Schnarr get put on the waiver yesterday, by the way.
I think the next big wave of cuts is going to be after the back-to-back, because obviously you've got 2 games in 2 days. There's no sense in playing your veterans 2 days running. So yeah, I think we can expect a big wave of cuts on Tuesday. And Saint Louis did say before the camp that he was hoping to have, pretty much his NHL roster for the last couple of games. So I think crunch time is coming, and it's especially time for the blue line pretenders to show that they should be the winners.
Sweet.
That sounds good.
Nice. Oh, wow. Sexy. That's a good headline for sure.
Marco?
Yeah, like you're probably right. I think that logically speaking, they'll probably keep the guys that they know will be in Laval a bit longer. My thought is if they're pretty confident that somebody's going to go down to junior, like a Beck, for example, right? Or if they think that Machar is going to play in OHL, you imagine at some point if they're going to see, based on the performance, especially Beck hasn't, been as comfortable the last 2 games, still decent. Like we're still happy with him, but not as strong as a performance. So at what point does the benefit of having them there outweigh the benefit of them joining their team right at the beginning of the season? So maybe my guess would be that if there's going to be a cut before the last big cut, it would be those guys that they're confident will play in junior, just to get them back into their natural habitat, so to speak. But that's hard to say for sure. But yeah, I think right before those back-to-backs, that's when the last big one's going to happen.
I think they will keep Beck all the way to the end with Mézard. I think they will remove more the player like Simoneau, those players like Gignac and but maybe not Belzile, but the Richard, the bottom of the Laval Rocket they have right now. I think they will be removed more like Monday, Tuesday. I think they will keep Beck, Mézard longer, and that's what my prediction about Beck, because Beck for me still play a solid game for me. I disagree with Marco about this. He played an amazing, great game yesterday. For me, he was like, he does so many things nobody pay attention, like the details, turnover, turn around the puck, stop the player. He have another post yesterday, and he could have 2 goals so far. I think for me, yesterday was an amazing, great game again. Percentage of face-off a little bit lower. I understand that, but when you face to Claude Giroux, that's possibly the reason why happening normally. But for me, I think he will be until to the end of the week. I know the OHL start, they start, but they play next weekend. So I would definitely keep him a little bit longer, more remove couplers for the Laval Rocket. It'll be interesting. We're going to follow up. Maybe Karen have some insight about this, some injuries you can give up, some update, Karen, what you know already.
I think everyone had a bit of a laugh this week when we heard that Josh Anderson's upper body injury was actually caused by a spider bite, which made his end swole, which meant that his end was all swollen and red. Personally, I'm just looking to see if he's going to be Spider-Man when he starts playing again. I mean, we might have a new nickname there, from Power Horse to Spider-Man. That would be great. As for Nick Suzuki and Madison Bowie, they started practicing. Well, Anderson has as well, but Suzuki and Bowie are still wearing baby blue no contact jerseys, but they're back. And I think the plan is for Suzuki to get in preseason games. So, the return must be pretty near, and that's nice to see. And it's still unknown about Joel Edmondson. We don't know how long he's going to be out. We don't know exactly how serious this injury is, but this is, strongly reminiscent of last season when it was like indefinite, but he's getting better. Yeah, but when is he going to get really better, We'll see.
Yeah, forgotten guy in that one maybe is Monahan too, right? Like he's skating again. I suspect I think he really, really, really wants to play in that first game in Toronto. So again, they're not going to rush him because they know what happened last time he rushed, but seems like he's close. So that's the other piece. And Kegan, if there's a Josh Anderson Spider-Man game worn glove, I'm sure you'll add it to your collection at some point, right?
Oh, I'll be on that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe he's the next Michael Jackson, but that's another subject for another time. With a glove on the left lens. But talking about it, I think I could be wrong, Karen. I read Suzuki was wearing now the normal jersey, but that's what I thought I read some point, but I could be wrong here. But and then what happening? Do you believe? And I know we was not prepared for this question because Karen just mentioned Marco talk about Monahan. Do you believe? Because I feel like how he can be ready to jump in for the first game. We still have almost like 12 days. But do you believe he could start on the long-term injury reserve or on the injury reserve to open spot and give an opportunity for another spot open up, or you expect he would be ready for the first game? We know his birthday is October 12th, by the way.
I don't know. I think if you want to maximize Sean Monahan as an asset, you want to give him a chance to perform as well as can be this season. So you want to get him in the game and in game shape as well. You don't want to rush him, but if he's ready, you let him go. You don't just sideline him to make room for another guy. I think he can have a real impact if he's really in shape and if his hips are all better now. I don't see why you would hold him back. But you can't just throw someone in the opening game of the season if they haven't played a preseason game and they've not been really put into the right gear.
That's my concern. Yeah, that's exactly what that's my concern. He's not clear yet, so I don't know why he's not clear. But if he don't play any exhibition game, I think it could be difficult for him to jump in first game right away in October 12th. That's my.
I think we all look to the wise Shakira and understand that his hips will not lie.
Will be interesting to see that. Of course, we're going to give you all the update next week, next Sunday. But another one we bring now because the hockey is back, so we have a lot of new subject we bring on the show at the HabsBrunch, your Sunday on rendezvous. This week we'll open up Ab Prospect, another one with Montreal Canadiens, but the one are not with the Montreal Canadiens, and they play in NCAA or OHL, Junior CHL, or they can play in the SHL or KHL, whatever they play. And we have two players, maybe more you want to know. Joshua Watt, the last two games, have 4 points to go to assist back from the Montreal Canadiens. And he played right away with the Sherbrooke Phoenix. And then Lane Hudson played his first game with the Boston University. They beat, I think it's Bentley. Oh, I could be wrong the name of the team, 8-2. Look, Doc have 1 goal, 1 assist. An amazing, great pass of Lane Hudson on the back door. And Luck Doc, I'm very happy for Doc. He had a really difficult year last season with injuries. He struggled a little bit better on the month of the January, but not good enough to have a better year. But Hudson started right away with the Boston University. And they have other players performing around like Vincent Rohrer. We did not see him. He's back now in OHL. They have 2 points his first game with them. We have other prospects like Frédéric Dichaud lost yesterday, but he have a great performance Thursday night. And Rightly, Kidney have a 1 point on his first game and a QM. So that's all about other prospects we heard. Anybody want to talk about other prospects you heard during the week, or if you have any comments about them, their performance?
Well, I think it was good to see Joshua Roy back in top form, to be honest, and that kind of performance is why I think Machar should go to junior, because if you're good and you're almost too good for the junior, it gives you a bit of a confidence boost. You can dominate that level and then you move on to the next. So watching Roy play at that level makes me think that it would be good for Machar as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so right.
some of the goals I saw Roy score, like it's just a weak wrister from the point is like, yeah, okay. So it's nice, but again, you saw kind of the goals that he scored. The Hudson, passes though, those were pretty impressive. Those were pretty cool to watch. Yeah, that Boston University team is going to be a lot of fun to watch. Kapanen had a goal as well too. After not really kind of being, I don't know, tournament, the World Junior Tournament, but I think we thought we'd play a bit higher in the lineup for Finland. We're surprised that he was the fourth line center. So hopefully he comes again this December to play and has a bit of a higher role, because he's kind of a forgotten guy, but he's a center, big guy, can skate. So good depth option maybe in the future. So good start for Kapanen too.
Yeah, of course they have, and I think we're going to finish with the last thing we talk about. We always try to bring some news around the Montreal Canadiens, and then Karen want to mention about Brendan Gallagher because she loves Gally.
Gally's doing a public signing in Mascouche on October 23 with memorable authentic. I don't know. Well, for those who follow and collect stuff, you know that Gallagher's public signing are quite rare. So if you want something signed by Gallagher, get there. It's important because we don't see him that often doing these public events. I know for sure I'm going to get my game worn Stanley Cup playoff gloves autographed. That's
Great to hear
nice.
that. Any purpose behind this? Why Gallagher go there? Like any kind of connection? How this could be? How this works to have Gallagher to come that store? Example. I was just curious to know.
Well, I know that the memorabilia store owners just have to, deal with the players' agents, and they're not always easy to deal with. I know that Gallagher's a great guy, but when his agent is around, he's just gonna sign and that's it. I've been to a show before where there was this father with two kids who wanted to take a picture with Brendan while he was signing the autograph, and the agent was like, "No, move along, we don't have time," and that's not great. So I'm hoping the agent won't be around on that day, but we'll see. So
Maybe
I
not.
think it's really a matter of dealing with the players' agents and having the right contacts, really.
Marco, any news for the Montreal Canadiens? Do you have no
No,
signature
I was
for
just
you?
no signatures. I'm always curious though, and fascinated to watch Karin's collection and stuff. So I'll be following along to see if she gets her game worn gloves signed for sure. Where is Mascouche? Is that
Ah,
near?
it's
Where is that?
on the north shore of Montreal, not far from
Hey, I lived there
somewhere
10
between
years
Laval
in
and
Mascouche, Mr. Marco.
Oh
Mascouche
yeah.
is just beside, a little bit east of Laval, between after Terrebonne. Is honestly the last town from Laval, Terrebonne, and Mascouche, and then you have to go all the way after that, Joliette, the Laurentides, everything like that. So a little bit
I'm just
south of Blainville. That's the best way to go there. Go to Cégep at Sainte-Thérèse. Okay, I know this area perfectly great in Mascouche, so I can tell you exactly what's going on. Where is Mascouche?
I'm just
Oh,
glad I
there's
pronounced
another
it
thing
properly.
that
I was gonna pronounce it. Sorry, go ahead, get in.
there's just another thing that we should mention. The Emma Quebec blood drive is going to be back with the Canadians this year. It's going to be at the Bell Center on October 19. If you can donate blood and you don't mind doing it, go there, do it, and stick around for the day. If you want, you can meet a lot of the Canadians players, and that's always fun because you're there, getting your blood taken, and the players walk around, talk to you, and you can stay in the sort of holding pen at the end and get autographs and all that from the players. So that's always a good day. And you're doing a good deed at the same time. So October 19th, that is.
Awesome. Great to know. We cannot leave the show without talking about Mr. Marco about what?
The Frenchy Contest.
The Frenchy Contest back again this week. And last week we have a question. It was about which player has the most points this week. And of course, he is the GOAT of all the Frenchy quiz on the week. He did it again. He showed it again. And we have Mr. Enartap is the winner of the fantasy book of the Elite Prospect. Again, winner is Mr. Enartap, week number 3. Congratulations. And this week we have a question, Mr. Marco, and it's all about this question will be a little bit different. What will be the Montreal Canadiens record this week? They play 4 games, and it will be interesting what is going to be the winner for this episode number 4. Just come back next week. I'm going to announce the winner of this. And just curiously for you guys, Karen, what do you expect the record of the Montreal Canadiens this week at the end of the week?
I think they might actually grab a win or 2, but we'll see.
There we go. Marco?
I'm going to say out of the 4 games, there's 4 games.
Yep.
They're going to win 1. They'll win 1.
I go 1-2-1. I want to be friend like you guys, so I want to go. We have 2-2, 1-3, and 1-1. That would be the call for me for this week. Finally, before we leave, want to know both of you tell us what you're looking for this week. What really you're focusing more compared for weeks number 1 on the main camp. What this week you really maybe looking more, pay more attention for the Montreal Canadiens, Karen.
Well, with the roster diminishing, less players that don't belong there, less players that are AHL players there, I'm going to be keeping an eye on Slavkovski when he gets his chance to play with real NHL players, see how he meshes with them. That's my big question mark right now. I'm really curious to see where he starts and how, what he can do in his next NHL preseason games.
Mr. Marco.
Yeah, same thing. Definitely watching those races at the end to see what's going to happen. Should be fun. Guys, if you're watching this live in the live chat and the premiere, so don't forget to leave your comments on the video, like the video, share. Great week again, guys. Thanks, Coach, for it should be a fun contest this week to see how many wins we're going to get, but I don't know if I'd be surprised if we get more than 1.
You never know. I trust Karen. She said 2. I will go a little bit 1 point behind her. And your only way you can, of course, follow Karen on the Hockey Buzz. This is her information on the social media, on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. She's not complicated live. She said, you know what? I just need to use my name. That's the only way we can reach me, and that's the easy way you can reach Karen. Karen, again, you nailed it again. We really appreciate your collaboration at the HabsBrunch. Marco, thank you so much again for another co-host with the HabsBrunch. And honestly, for everybody, we wish you an amazing, great week. I can't wait to see you. Episode number 5. Be ready, Karen and Marco, because next week, it's about prediction for upcoming season. We'll go through the prediction for the Montreal Canadiens next week, so I can't wait to talk about this. Until then, we wish you an amazing, great week. Everybody, have an amazing one.